Hi, my name is Thomas Whitelock, and I'll be talking about Ruby on Rails today. For our senior project, we're building an application using Ruby on Rails. So what is Ruby on Rails? Ruby on Rails is a web development framework. And frameworks are collections of code libraries that give app and web developers ready-made solutions for time-consuming and repetitive tasks. Things like building menus, tables, or forms on a website. In other words, rather than having to write every single line of code in a program from scratch, web developers can refer to a framework and find code for common functions they can plug into websites or web apps that they're building. Now, web frameworks are usually specific to a certain programming language. For example, AngularJS is a JavaScript framework, meaning that all the code libraries within it should be written in JavaScript. The Rails framework is simply a web framework written on top of the Ruby programming language. Now, Rails is particularly notable for easy maintenance. There's a couple reasons for that. One of them is the DRY principle, which is don't repeat yourself. DRY is the principle of software development, which states that every piece of knowledge must have a single, unambiguous, authoritative representation within a system. By not writing the same information over and over again, our code is more maintainable, more extensible, and less buggy. Now, just to let you know, Ruby on Rails has been used to write quite a few websites. One of the notable ones would be Basecamp, which is kind of where it started. Also, GitHub and Kickstarter were built using it as well. Now, doing the research on this, the guy that kind of is in charge of Ruby on Rails is kind of a prickly guy from what I could tell. And because of that, rather than going into this is what the code does, here's an example, this is how easy it is, blah, 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 I'm actually going to talk about what they have like a manifesto, and it's the 9 pillars of Ruby on Rails. And it kind of makes sense if you do research and read what the manifesto is, then you understand why they're doing this. Now, the first one is optimize for programmer happiness. There will be no Rails without Ruby, so it's only fitting that first doctrinal pillar is lifted straight from the core motivation for creating Ruby. Now, Ruby was created in the 1990s by a guy in Japan. And the reason he created it was he was not happy with the language he was using at the time, which was C++, which is entirely understandable. And he wanted a language that's more harmonious with the programmer, something that's more natural. And if you know Japanese culture, this makes a lot of sense. So Ruby's original hearsay was indeed to place the happiness of the program on a pedestal, above many other competing and valid concerns that have been driven programming language and ecosystems before it. The second is convention over configuration. One of the early productivity mottos of Rails went, "You're not a beautiful and unique snowflake. It is postulated by giving up vain individuality that you can leapfrog the toils of mundane decisions and make faster progress in areas that really matter." The menu is omakase. How do you know what to order in a restaurant when you don't know what is good? Well, if you let the chef choose, you can probably assume a good meal, even before you know what good is. That is omakase, a way to eat well that requires you to neither be an expert in the cuisine nor blessed with a blind luck at picking in the dark. The next one is no one paradigm. There's a strong emotional appeal to picking a single central ideal and falling into the logical conclusions as your architectural underpinnings. There is a purity in such discipline, so it's clear why programmers are naturally attracted to this bright light. Rails isn't like that. It isn't a single perfect cut of cloth. It's a quilt, a composite of many different ideas and even paradigms, many that would usually be seen in conflict if contrasted alone or one by one. But that's not what we're trying to do. It is a single championship of superior ideas where sole winner must be declared. Exalt beautiful code. While writing code is not to be understood by the computer or other programmers, not just to be understood by the computer or other programmers, but to bask in the warm glow of beauty. Aesthetically pleasing code is a value unto itself and should be pursued with vigor. That doesn't mean that beautiful code always trumps other concerns, but it should have a full seat at the table of priorities. Provide sharp knives. Ruby includes a lot of sharp knives in its drawer of features, not by accident, but by design. The most famous is monkey patching, the power to change existing classes and methods. This power has been frequently derided as simply too much for mere mortal programmers to handle. People from more restrictive environments used to imagine all sorts of calamities that would doom Ruby because of the immense trust the language showed its speakers with this feature. Value integrated systems. Rails can be used in many contexts, but its first love is the making of integrated systems, majestic monoliths. A whole system that addresses an entire problem. This means Rails is concerned with everything from front-end JavaScript needed to make live updates to how the database is migrated from one version to another in production. Progress over stability. When systems have been around for more than a decade, like Rails has, their natural tendency is towards ossification. There's some million reasons why every change might be an issue for someone, somewhere who depend on past behavior, and fair reason those are too for the individual. However, if we listen too closely to voices of conservatism, we'll never see what's on the other side. We have to dare occasionally break and change how things are to evolve and grow. This evolution that will keep Rails fit for survival and prosperity in the decades to come. Push up a big tent. With so many controversial ideas to its credit, Rails could quickly become an insular group of ideological hermits if we required everyone to exhibit complete deference to all tenets all the time, so we don't. We need disagreements, we need dialects, we need diversity of thought and people. This is this melting pot of ideas that we get the best comments for all to share. A lot of people chipping in their 2 cents in a code or considered argument. And I think you really should stress arguments, because looking at some of the forums, the people are kind of, they can be rather prickly, let me say. I want to thank you for your time, and that ends my presentation.